Welcome to Voices of Culture, the podcast that bridges the gaps in our fast-paced, often disconnected world. I'm Dr. Lida Tsene, your host, and I'm thrilled to embark on this journey with you and the producer, Dina Ntziora. In an era where meaningful connections can feel increasingly rare, Voices of Culture aims to foster compassion, build a sense of community, and reimagine the ways we engage with one another. Each episode offers a chance to delve into the varied experiences and solutions emerging from different communities, reminding us that despite our differences, we are all united in the fight for sustainable future. So join us as we explore the power of shared experiences, celebrate cultural diversity, and bring you stories that inspire, uplift, and unite. Welcome again to Voices of Culture, where every voice matters and every story has the power to connect us all. So today we welcome Hayden Bridgeman, North Area Ranger of the New Forest National Park. So welcome, Hayden.
Thank you for having me. This is very exciting, a very cool podcast.
And very cool is what you are doing. So it will be very interesting for our listeners if you could share a little bit about the details of this amazing work.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, my name's Hayden and I'm one of the area rangers in a national park on the south coast of the UK called the New Forest. And my role as ranger is to educate visitors, locals, different communities about the importance of nature in our national parks, but also to help people enjoy them as well. National parks were created, for people to have fun in them and to experience nature in lots of different ways, and that's my main role. So I spend a lot of time talking to people. We go to different events, play educational games, and get people connected to nature. I do a lot of litter picking as well, but mainly being the eyes and ears of the national park, and to help create special memories for people in a very special place.
It seems really interesting. And I would like to ask you, what is the response of the people who are, coming to the park and are engaging with you, especially in an era where we're all facing the consequences of climate change every day?
It's really interesting, actually. I feel like recently, especially over the last couple of years since COVID, I think people want to do more. People realized how important our natural spaces are and how much they rely on them. And people want to do more to help protect them for future generations, which is really, really positive. It can be challenging though. Not everyone feels the same. Not everyone wants to do their bit to protect this amazing space that we're in. But the majority of people are positive. They want to hear about what they can do when they visit our parks, but also what they can do at home, sort of to live sustainably, which is really encouraging. But yeah, the majority of people just want to have a nice time in the outdoors and want it to be there for their children and their children's children, which is really nice. It's really special.
Do you think it's kind of important right now to reconnect with nature? And also, why do you think we feel at our best when we are outside in the nature?
Oh, very good questions. So I think it's so important to reconnect with nature, that communities are relying on nature for every aspect of their lives. I think we need to go back to our roots and really sort of live off the land. I think we've become really disconnected on where our food comes from, and how we can feel in the outdoors. I think there's that lack of connectivity. We spend a lot of time inside, we spend a lot of time on our screen, and I think especially during lockdowns, the only thing you could do was go for a walk in your local park or exercise outside. And I think it really connected people again to the outside. And I think we feel our best is because in the outdoors, because that's where we started, that's where we originated from, that's how we live. We wouldn't survive as a human race without the natural world. And I think it's why people feel so free and people feel so connected and grounded, is because it's a part of us, and it's going back to our roots, which is so important to remember, and so important as a species that we keep that connection. I think you feel a real sense of connectivity and being present when you're outdoors, and when you're sharing that with other people as well. It's really important.
And this is somehow the essence of this concept that is being very vividly discussed the past years, which has to do with ecological belonging. So how do you perceive ecological belonging? What does it mean for you?
Oh, it's such a good question, and such an important feeling as well, and such an important concept. I think we as a human race are so closely connected to the natural world, and I really do believe we are losing that closeness and our compassion for the environment. Sort of that knowledge, like I said, of where our food comes from and how our natural ecosystems work and what they need to work is being forgotten about. And I think until we address that, our communities won't necessarily be complete. I think ecological belonging to me is something that everyone should have. It's vital that it's present in our local communities and given the importance that it deserves, and we need it. Without our natural environment, we lose our civilization. And I think ecological belonging gives us that ability to care more deeply. It gives us the tools and the knowledge to really continue to look after that natural environment and give us a sense of responsibility that we work with nature, we work with the ecology of the natural world, and each of us has an impact on the world. And I think natural or man-made, we must remember that. And I think ecological belonging is just such a valuable thing to feel for individuals.
So you mentioned care, which is a special word for us, and not only a word, of course. So how can we put care in the center of our common and personal behavior towards people and, of course, towards the planet?
I think care and especially compassion as well are so important in all aspects of society, I think. And when we're trying to encourage behavior change, which when we look at climate change is what we need people to act differently and care differently. I think we only can do that if we are the change that we want to see. I think we can only do what we can do, and we can't change everything, but the thing you can do is what you do every day. And I think putting that care at the forefront of what we do is so important, whether that's in your everyday work, whether you're not necessarily working in the environment, but just in your everyday practices. I think if you're putting that first and you want to see that across our natural landscapes or across our communities, I think if you're doing that and we act with care, it changes everything and has a really profound and positive impact on everything that we do and the conversations that we have. So I think we just need to be that catalyst for change and put care at the forefront of everything that we do.
And you work a lot with educational activities, as you mentioned before. So what do you think is the role of arts, community engagement, education, but also civic action and personal motivation towards this change, this small or bigger change that we want to achieve?
Oh, they're such good tools. I think the arts really gets communities engaged and excited in different ways. The arts are an incredible way to think about like climate resilience, because it's important to remember that not everyone thinks or acts or believes the same way. So having different opportunities, whether it's through arts or education activities or civic action, it allows people to connect to it in different ways and express themselves differently. It's important that people can express themselves differently, and art is such a great way for people to do that, whether it's through painting or theatre or spoken word. It can help in so many ways. I think talking to other people about it is important as well, and we can take action as a collective, which is really nice and important to remember. And I think in my role, I run so many educational activities and games, and I think getting people excited is so important. I think it can be very much doom and gloom and negative when we think about climate resilience, and it can take a real toll on our mental health. And I think if we go back to getting people excited and making people feel empowered, I think that will really, really help in building that picture of against climate resilience.
you brought up the topic of mental health, and there is also this new anxiety that comes from the climate change. I mean, we are all experiencing this climate anxiety from time to time. How can we, let's say, become more resilient towards this? How can we empower and equip ourselves in order to tackle climate anxiety?
I think there's a real balance between knowing when to stop and to keep going. I think importance is around education. Without a doubt, we must continue to learn and learn again how to live with the natural world and bring back that environmental education and connection, so that communities can grow food together, we can recycle together, we can do it together. I think that's important to remember, is that we're in this as a team and we're in this as a global community. It's hard to remember that sometimes when you look at the bigger picture and you look at your impact, but equally it's really important to remember that your impact does really matter. Your individual choices matter and make such a big difference. And I think, yeah, just remembering that as an individual can really help with your climate resilient. But in terms of your community, I think education is key. I think we must adapt as well. We don't necessarily have a lot of space to access green spaces, but I think sharing that knowledge with others and sharing those spaces with others will really help. I think things like community garden projects are so valuable. The use of local green spaces are so vital. And I think having that genuinely caring ethos, which we touched about before, will make such a difference to climate resilience. I think just caring for each other and treating people and the environment with kindness, I think that's a big thing to put forward and to put first, and to look after yourself as well, knowing when to take a break, knowing when to think, actually, you know what, I'm tired and I need to celebrate the small wins and celebrate the wins that are already happening rather than focusing on the negative. I think, yeah, a break is good for resilience.
That's very true. And can you share with us one or two stories, like inspiring or empowering stories throughout your journey, your professional and maybe your personal journey in relation to nature and sustainability?
Yeah, definitely. So in terms of my journey, I think I studied photography at university and I finished that and had a bit of a midlife crisis, although people then correct me and say it's a quarter life crisis at 21. And I wasn't really sure what to do with, I hadn't really found my passion. So I had never really heard of the concept of conservation and the environment and the fact that people were working in this industry. And I went and volunteered on a turtle conservation project in the Caribbean for 6 weeks. I was going to go and do 6 weeks and then come back and get a proper job, as people might see it as. But those 6 weeks were so fundamental, and it was that exposure to nature, that exposure to the environment and wildlife, and the fact that this turtle population were in crisis and needed protecting, and that without that exposure and that education and that being open to it, I would never ever have realized that this is an option and something that is so needed. And I think it's just always stuck with me. I then went on after those 6 weeks and thought, this is what I want to do. I found my passion. There's these amazing network of people doing amazing things for the environment, and I want to be part of that. And I went on for the next sort of couple of years volunteering on different projects. And what stuck with me to this day, working across sort of from Malaysia to Central Island to lots of different community-led projects, was that passion and that willingness to share. And that's something that stuck with me. And I think that's what we need. We need willingness to share with each other within our communities, but also to teach people, to let people see what's out there, because we know as a society that we're not going to care about what we don't understand. And I think it's just something that's so important. And seeing those hatchlings race across the beach in the Caribbean is just as special as walking down the street near me and seeing a bird fly across me. Like, no matter where you are in the world, there's pockets of nature, and it's just so inspiring, and I think everyone deserves to experience those things. And I think then we'll be able to have a society that cares about the natural environment in whatever way they can. So that's something that's really, stuck with me. But in terms of my everyday life, just talking to people about nature just fills me with a lot of hope and a lot of inspiration, and hearing people's stories about what they get excited about is very special, and I think super important, which links us back to those caring messages and that sort of compassion for the environment, but also each other. I think if we put people first, nature will have the space and nature will follow. I think we just need to remember those caring messages.
Thank you so much, Hayden. So community and creating these caring environments inside a bigger or smaller community can become a really powerful tool towards our sustainability living aspirations. And I really liked, your optimistic and hopeful messages, because we tend to talk a lot with pessimistic words and narratives around what is happening in the planet right now. So how can we change those narratives, and how can we inspire hope for the next generations?
Oh, it's such a tricky question, but such an important question as well. I think, like you say, we often focus on the negative, and it's hard to know that you can make a difference. But I think, again, it comes back to individual choices. I think in an ever-growing, overpopulated world with nearly 8 billion people, and I think we might have passed 8 billion, I think it can be overwhelming to think about how we can change society and how we can change societal norms. But you as an individual can, and I think that's the biggest message. I think there are just some amazing initiatives nearby me. Like we have, I think it goes back to thinking about being local and your own impact, and we've got some amazing things that can help. So like local allotments, sharing produce, helping each other recycle, fixing things instead of throwing them away. We have this amazing initiative near me, which is a local repair cafe where you can take things in, broken belongings, and get them fixed instead of throwing them into landfill. And I think there's a lot of local knowledge in your communities, and I think we just need to work to connect them up and share that knowledge, because we can make a difference. I promise. I've been really lucky to spend some time with other projects and other communities over in Greece and in the UK, and seeing those networks of different people doing their own good work is really inspiring and really fulfilling. So I think it's important to know where to get your news from, where to get your like articles that you read from, because there are good things happening out there. And I think focusing on what good is being done will help change that narrative and stress to people that your choice matters. And there's a really good quote from a zero waste chef, and I think she said, we don't need a handful of people doing sustainability perfectly, we need thousands of people doing sustainability imperfectly. And I think it just really resonated with me that you can only do what you can do, and the cost of living is so expensive, and making sustainable choices is a privilege, and it isn't for everyone. But equally, if you can just make one choice, it's better than making no choices to be sustainable. So I think, focus on the good, focus on the positive, and don't get too disheartened at the headlines.
And I think that this is the perfect message to close our conversation. Thank you so much, Hayden, for being with us. And thank you all who listened to the Voices of Culture, the podcast that every voice matters and every story has the power to connect us all.